All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. We got Monday Night Football. Should be a really good game. We got the Ravens taking on the Lions. In today's video, I'm going to dive into this game. I'm going to break it down. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That's where you'll find all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest, if you do want to fade me, all of that absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. Now, before we do dive into this game, I want to talk to you guys about Epic Fantasy. If you have not tried out this app yet, you are missing out. Right now, if you use the link down in the description, as well as the pinned comment, you'll get your first deposit matched up to $50. And what I really like about Epic is, first and foremost, the lines they have for players are a lot softer than some of the other competitors out there, which is great. Secondarily, the payouts, the multipliers beat a lot of the others in the game right now. So go ahead and check it out. If that sounds good to you, go use that link down in the description, as well as the pinned comment. It's available in 38 plus states right now. And they also have the Fade'em section. I didn't even talk about that yet. All you have to do is pick, amongst regular users like me and you, right? You go to the Fade'em section and you pick someone being like, you know what? Don't really love that entry. All you have to do is get one correct on their entry, taking the opposites, and you get paid out. It's really damn cool, guys. Go ahead and check it out. That link, again, will be down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Let's talk some football here. Ravens, Lions. Ravens right now, 4.5-point favorites at home. Total sitting at 52.5. Both teams coming into this one 1-1. We kind of know how the Ravens, how their season's gone. They lost that crazy game, week number 1, Sunday Night Football against Buffalo. They bounced back in a big way, though. 41-17 dominant win over the Browns. Flip it over to the Lions. Kind of a similar story. Now, they weren't winning their entire week 1 game and then blew it away, right? No, they got stomped by the Packers. But then they go to, they're back at home. They play the Bears and win that one 52-21. If I were to tell you, hey, Lamar Jackson threw for 4 touchdowns last week, you'd probably be like, wow, no one in the league threw more than that, right? Wrong. Jared Goff threw for 5 touchdowns. So 2 of the quarterbacks that had really good games last week facing off in this one. What we'll do here is we'll go through, look at the Ravens offense versus the Lions defense. Then we'll flip it. We'll look at the Lions defense versus Lions offense versus the Ravens defense, and take it from there. We'll give you our spread lean, our total lean. Then we'll get into the player prop portion of the video. So if that sounds good, guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know your favorite plays down in the comments as well. Tell you guys that all the time. You're not just helping me out. You're not just letting me know. You're helping out a ton of other people and letting them know some good angles to attack in this game. But let's dive into it. We got Lamar Jackson and this Ravens offense versus a Detroit defense that didn't look phenomenal in week 1. Maybe looked a little bit better in week number 2, I guess we could say, right? In that 52-21 win. Now, they're going to play a lot of man-to-man defense. They've already done that to start the year, and if we look back last year, they were the highest man frequency rate. So it's important to note that we should project this Lions team to play some man, which is pretty big because Lamar Jackson last year, years before, even I guess somewhat heading into this season through the first 2 weeks, isn't all that great against man, especially when staying in the pocket. He prefers to pass against zone, at least the numbers would say so, right? In terms of his numbers overall, I mean, last year, yards per attempt weren't all that great against man compared to zone. Completion percentage drops down to 65%. Interception rate goes up. His DVOA drops. His expected points added drop as well. And this season, I think he has 63% completion percentage against man-to-man. So very important to note that just schematically alone, the type of coverage that this Detroit team will run might give Lamar Jackson some, troubles, I guess, in a sense. Now, that being said, the Browns are traditionally a man defense as well, and Lamar Jackson threw for 4 touchdowns against them. He was only 19 of 29, but still, 4 passing touchdowns versus a heavy man defense is worth noting. Now, Detroit's also been blitzing at a high rate so far, the 8th highest in the league to start this year, which, again, makes sense. They were a top 5 team last year in terms of blitz rate. Lamar's not that great historically against the blitz. And the two opponents that he's seen so far in the Browns and the Bills, not exactly the same blitz frequency type team. So he's going to see this Lions team that blitzes more than both the teams that he's looked at so far. Yes, the Bills can apply some pressure, and that's great, but in terms of schematically drawing up blitzes, not so much, right? But that also being said, and there's a lot of but that being said, because there's a lot of give and take in this game, I'll be honest. That said, this Detroit team, even though they're blitzing a lot, they're just middle of the pack in terms of QB hit rate. They're not exactly getting to the quarterback, obviously with sacks or hits or applying the pressure. So yeah, they're drawing up blitzes, but I wouldn't necessarily sit here and claim that they're the most successful blitzes in the first place. So overall, I do think Lamar Jackson maybe is in a slightly tougher spot than normal simply because of the man defense, but overall I do think that there's enough playmakers, and obviously we'll talk about the run game in a second, to help this Lamar Jackson led offense out in a sense, and they'll probably be able to move. So yeah, not a great situation, but by no means am I saying that he's gonna either get cooked or he'll do the cooking, you know what I'm saying? Moving on to the run attack here, Derrick Henry and this Ravens offense. They are second in the league in terms of yards per carry, mainly because of last 2 weeks ago, right? Week number 1 when Derrick Henry ran all over the Bills. Because they were bottom of the pack in terms of the entire league last week against that Browns team from a yards per carry perspective. So the fact that they are second through 2 weeks speaks volumes to how damn good they were in week number 1, right? This year they've been doing a lot of outside zone running schemes, which is a little interesting because last year it was a lot more inside zones. So what I wanted to look at with this Detroit team is both of those things. If the Ravens continue to run the outside zone, okay, that's what they've been doing. Let's look at it from that perspective. But if they revert a little bit back to what they were doing last year in a very similar system and do a lot more inside zones, how is Detroit against both of those spots, right? In terms of, Detroit's run defense just in general before we get into the zones, 9th most explosive plays run against them through 2 weeks. Everything else is kind of middle of the pack or a decent run defense, but I do think with Lamar, with Derrick Henry, it is important to note that they are a top 10 team, so bottom 10 in a sense, from an explosive run rate against perspective. I do think that's very important to note because we have 2 explosive runners, quarterback and running back, right? So I already mentioned inside zone, outside zone. How do they stack up here? They're pretty good when it comes to a lot of advanced metrics against the inside zone and the outside zone, but they have against inside zone specifically, and if you group those together, zone runs, the highest, and I just mentioned this explosive run rate, same thing against the inside and outside, highest explosive run rate in the league through 3 weeks. So while I don't think that we're always going to see Derrick Henry pounding it down and making it easy, chunk play, I do think every now and then we can expect an explosive run play from this Ravens offense, which is obviously going to be huge, and that's going to come up when we talk about a player prop that we're really liking in this game a little bit later. So yeah, overall, I do think the Ravens will be able to move the ball to like a superb level. Maybe not, right? Because this Lions defense, from everything we looked at, they do everything okay so far. Nothing too amazing. Same with the run defense. Everything okay. Nothing too amazing. Maybe a soft spot with the explosive run. Let's talk about Jared Goff and this Detroit offense against the Ravens defense. Now, Ravens also play a little bit more man historically, but they've actually started the season playing a little bit of zone, which, like I even said with them running the ball, maybe they have schematically changed some things this season. But overall, I do expect them to play a little bit more man, just because that's what they did all of last year. Now, all of that being said, I don't think it matters too much. Jared Goff, actually a rare case in this league where he's a quarterback that doesn't even have the craziest splits in terms of man versus zone. I mean, he'll have, more yards per attempt against zone than man, but his interception rate drops against man. His DVOA goes up against man, whereas his EPA goes up against zone. So a lot of different pieces that you can kind of pull for him in terms of, okay, you know what, as long as he doesn't get pressured, which is the big thing, doesn't get blitzed, has a clean pocket, he's good to go. So I just mentioned it, pressure, blitz, clean pocket, that's going to be absolutely massive here, because this Ravens team, in terms of this season, really hasn't had the craziest amount of pressures, hasn't really had the craziest amount of blitzes in terms of them drawing up blitzes. In fact, 18th in pressure rate this season, 29th in sack percentage, 22nd in QB hit rate, 21st in clean pocket rate, and 22nd in time to pressure. That's pretty massive because, again, if you give Jared Goff a nice cushiony pocket, a clean pocket, good things happen within this offense. So yeah, I think Detroit's going to be able to move the ball through the air here. Now, if we talk about the run game, right? Obviously, they have two studs back there. Gibbs and Montgomery finally started to get things going in week number 2. Didn't look all that great in week number 1. But also, Packers defense, I think we're starting to learn that that wasn't just a lack thereof skill from the Lions. The Packers might just be that good. And in terms of how this Lions team likes to run, no Ben Johnson anymore, but actually for the first 2 weeks, their run game in terms of play call and scheme has actually stayed pretty similar. They run a ton of inside zone, a ton of outside zone, aka a lot of zone run schemes. Well, this is a Ravens team that actually, some of their numbers look okay against the zone run, but dead last in the league when it comes to outside zone success rate. Getting the team off the field could be very tough. And then I think they're like 16th or something like that. Bottom third, whatever it is. Barely bottom third when it comes to success rate in the against the inside zone. So both of those factors are going to be very, very big. There's a lot of good things I just said about the Lions. And if we do transition now into my spread lean in terms of where I'm looking, I'll sound the psycho alert alarm. I get it, because the Ravens through 2 weeks have looked very, very good, even with the loss against the Bills. But I was impressed last week with this Lions team, and I'm impressed with what I'm seeing from, a scheme on both sides of the ball perspective. So I'm going to lean Lions here, plus the 4.5 points. I get it. If you like the Ravens, I don't think that there's enough there to fully convince you to the other side. Maybe your eye test is seeing something else, but to me, 4.5 points could mean a lot in this game, especially when I don't think the Ravens, though they do have some defensive playmakers and stuff, I don't necessarily sit here and think that they're going to be all that great defensively. I think this Lions team, whether it's through the air or on the ground, should be able to move the ball to some degree against them. And again, the success rate's huge here. 3rd and short, 2nd and short, maybe 4th and short. This should be a team in which the Lions can keep their drives alive. So yeah, I like the Lions in this spot. I'm also going to slightly lean towards the over. Now, maybe it's a little bit smarter to consider a Lions team total over. You can get them at 20.5 right now. 21.5 actually I think is more of the number. That might be a little bit smarter, because instead of pace and a fast-paced game, you're just looking for some offensive efficiency, which I think we've potentially found a little bit of, right, with this Lions squad. But I didn't really say too much about the Lions defense when it came to Lamar or Derrick Henry, right? In fact, I was pretty dead set that there could be some explosive run plays out of the Ravens. So yeah, I guess I'm also going to lean towards that over 52.5. Now, guys, it is time to move into the player prop portion of the video. You're going to be seeing the outlier screen. Make sure to go check it out yourself. You can use the link down in the description or the pinned comment, or scan the QR code on your screen right now. You get a 7-day free, Free, spelling bee champ, free trial. No code needed. You just need to use the link. After that, it's not even a gotcha moment. It's $19.99 per month after that. You use this thing correctly, it'll pay for itself. Check it out, that link down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Let's jump back into the video here in the player props. I got a few player props that I'm liking, and they kind of follow the game script that we like as well. First one here is going to be Derrick Henry. In terms of his longest rush, I like it over 17.5 yards. Let's pop it up here. I had already mentioned, the idea of him having some explosive plays. He's done this in 7 of his last 10. So far to start the season, just one of the 2 games, but he had a terrible, terrible game against that Browns team, right? He averaged 2.1 yards per attempt. He only had 23 rushing yards in general, and I kind of already mentioned this pretty heavily, right? So I shouldn't even say kind of mentioned that this is a Lions team that struggles at, if you want to pick one thing that they struggle, it's 1, with the types of runs that this Baltimore team should schematically go with, and 2, the explosive plays. So yeah, you could probably look at, him from a rushing yards perspective at 86.5. I think that is awfully high, though. I will say, I mean, you look at this, we had DeAndre Swift hit it last week, but Josh Jacobs, who had a decent game in week number 1, he didn't even get to his line at 70.5. So maybe there is a little bit of, give with this Lions defense overall against the run, but not too much. I'd much rather take a peek at, hey, Derrick Henry could have 1 rush for 18 yards and we cash our play, especially when I do think that they'll give him enough volume, and, the blocking schemes are obviously going to be very, very good. Whether they stick to the other outside or inside zone, regardless, I do like his over when it comes to that. Last year, he did this in 15 of 19 games. This is including the playoffs, I believe, as well. But look at that, averaging 33.7 in terms of his longest rush. At home last year, averaged 36. He did it in all but 1 game. So I'm looking at this guy thinking, okay, primetime game at home against the team that allows explosive runs. Boom. Derrick Henry, run it down the middle, around, on the outside, inside zone, whatever you want. Give me an 18-yard rush. Let's move on to player prop number 2 here, and it's actually going to be Jared Goff. I like his passing completions. I had talked about how he's going to have a clean pocket, right? And what I really like is even in, now just looking at his last 10, we'll just go to last year for now, to close out, actually, last 10 is probably a good example of this. His last 10 games, so 2 this year and then the rest being last year, even when he doesn't complete 24 passes, he's right around that number. Three of these games, this line was 22.5. He hit it in 9 of his last 10 games and in both games so far this year. Now we'll keep an eye on the line because maybe we'll be able to snag a 22.5 when it gets closer to the game time. But as of right now, I really don't mind the idea of 23.5. The odds are following here. I think you can get a nice little spot there. Pass attempts worry me just a little bit. Same thing though, he's been right around it, but if they schematically are able to run the ball like I think they might be able to, then yeah, you don't need to rely on Jared Goff. So for this way, he could go, 24 of 30, have a decent game, and he wouldn't have hit the passing attempts number, but he would have hit the passing completion, right? Which we've seen a couple times out of him. If we look at this, there's been a couple times where, yeah, he actually hit 82%. This is a few games ago, dating back to last year. 82% of his passes he completed, only on 33 attempts, right? Here's another one where he had 26 on 34, or here he had 23 on 28. So this is a guy that, again, clean pocket, high volume, but it doesn't need to be a high volume from an attempt perspective. It can just be quality looks. So quantity over quality to some degree, right? Moving on to Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's a high number, I get it, but honestly, this should be a guy that we can look at, especially if it kind of correlates to me liking Jared Goff, right? Jared Goff, his completions, look at where Amon-Ra's reception number is at 6.5. Now, over 5.5 is minus 250. You can almost book that he's going to do that, right? So, in a sense, if you're looking at his yards per reception, this is kind of how I'm doing the math. Say he gets 6 catches, right? Yards per reception, if we use last year as an example, 10.5. We're looking at him, that's a floor of 60 yards. If he goes and grabs one more, now we're already over this line. And what if he takes one for a little bit longer than normal, right? Because this is going to be a guy that will get the air yards. He had plenty of air yards here, last season. Yards after catch, 26.3. So there's a lot of ways as long as the volume's there. And again, we're using his reception line as kind of a barometer. Minus 250 for over 5.5. So if the books are telling us 6 catches, we can say 10.5. We're looking at like 65 yards as a floor. Now we have a guy that can catch it through the air, can also go yards after catch, and just we would only need 6 or 7 more yards to kind of come through happenstance throughout the game. So yeah, I like Amon-Ra here. I also don't mind him to score a touchdown at plus 135. I think that this could be a nice little look. He had plenty last season, had 3 last game. Maybe they're just in a little bit of a rhythm, right? Obviously, he was looking pretty damn good there. I have also wanted to kind of consider something from the Ravens side of things when it comes to their receiver. So using our dashboard, you could see here Bateman, Hopkins. We have some fairly easy matchups. We did see Roma Odunze have a really good game against this team last week. So yeah, I guess I would say, in terms of receptions, that would only be what I'm looking for. This ability of Lamar Jackson to, especially if he gets blitzed or something like that, being able to throw the ball quickly and get it out of the pocket. So let's see what we have here for receptions. Bateman over 2.5. That could be a decent enough look. Flowers, I don't love at that. It's a little bit high. Maybe the over 2.5 receptions for Justice Hill here. I think that might be a decent look. I mean, he hit this in 8 of 17. We're getting plus 118. He's obviously going to come out of the backfield, but coming out of the backfield might not hurt him because, again, if he's going to get the blitz or anything like that, maybe some dump-off passes. So keep an eye on the final plays, guys. I'll say that. We don't really have anything from the Ravens side other than Henry right now, but those 3 player props I'm liking. Final plays, we might add some stuff, and we'll give you a little blurb as to why. Hey, and I almost forgot, here is my epic fantasy entry. We already talked about it, right? Derrick Henry, longest rush, and Jared Goff, pass completions. This is going in over there for a 3.2x multiplier. Absolutely love that. I'm going to put a link. If you like these plays and want to tail it on Epic, I'll put that link as a separate link down in the comments. So go ahead and find that one-click tail over on Epic Fantasy. Derrick Henry, go get a long one. Jared Goff, how about an efficient game from you? But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this show. If you made it this far in the video, go ahead and comment 19. Yes, I know we get comments sometimes being like, how could you do a 19, 20-minute video for one game? we like to break it down. I like to get deep. We're talking zone runs, outside zone, inside zone, you know, defensive schematics in terms of coverage. There's a lot of good stuff to talk about here. I like taking my time with it and diving in, and throw in the fact that we do a bunch of player props as well, which those in and of themselves we should take some time, right? So I think I'm doing my due diligence. Hopefully you guys do like it. Comment 19 if you made it this far. Lets me know you heard that little rant. But just to recap, I like the Lions. I like them to score some points. I also like the over. I like Derrick Henry, longest rush attempt, Jared Goff in terms of his passing completions, and then Amon-Ra's yards. I know it's a high line at 71.5, but I definitely could see it getting there. We'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.